Hallelujah. We praise you this morning, Lord Jesus, in every way. You may be seated. As we approach the major reason we come to church, one of them anyway, that's his table. Unbelievable. The history of the table. It started with all the way back in time. Isn't that wonderful? I think the simple thing approaching the table for me this morning is, I remember in my career, in the days of teaching, kids would sit and I would say, "Let me have your attention." I would say that at this table this morning. Let's give him our attention. That's body, spirit, soul, every part of us. And if we sit with that in his presence, in here already, long before we even put a key in the door. So I read this morning from Ephesians chapter 1, starting in verse 3. And as we read this, keep in mind the joy of knowing that in the past, you'll see it, the joy of knowing in the past couple of years, it's a statement that we're making as a church, bringing forth power and understanding that Jesus lives in us. Why? Because he's the hope of glory. So here we go. How blessed is God? And what a blessing he is. He's the Father of our Master, Jesus Christ, and takes us to the higher places of blessing in him. Long before he laid down earth's foundations, he had us in mind, had settled on us as the focus of his love, to be made whole and holy in his love. Long, long ago, he decided to adopt us through his family and through Jesus Christ. What a promise. What pleasure he took in planning this. He wanted us to enter into the celebration of his lavish gift giving by the hand of his beloved Son. Lord Jesus, we come to this table this morning with the power of those words. We come knowing that you died on a cross for us, Lord Jesus. You set us free from the very beginning, and the revelation of you living in us and through us beyond words. I guess that's why we could say, Lord, we're fearfully and wonderfully made in your presence, Lord. May we receive the Lord this morning for what he has done and what he will continue to do. In Jesus' name.
Oh, we praise you, Lord.
Oh, we're good? It's the batteries. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Like fairy tales, right? You read the fairy tales and they lived happily ever after. Right? I think I need a clicker. Yeah, that'd be great. I don't see it. Anybody know where the clicker is? It's hiding. Maybe it's the clicker. I know it is. Probably in somebody's seat. One of you have it. I don't think so. Yeah, 3 people to get us rocking and rolling. Children, Kidmo. What is this? Whose coffee is this? Is this yours? Whose is this? Mary, it's yours? I'm going to take it. If Nolan was here, our special needs son, he steals now Megan's coffee. He loves coffee. Grammy, did you know that? He'll drink her coffee every day. So to see this 10-year-old kid, and he just picks up the coffee mug and he just starts drinking it, crushes it every day. Yeah, interesting. How you doing? How's everybody? We good? Yeah, you feeling good? You know, this time of the year, this isn't. We're going back to Revelation. We're jumping back in today. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for you. Good thing? I hope so. I always think of this weather. I mean, this is going to be one of the colder days of the year, right? Brutal. All right, you step outside and you're like, wow. I always think back to, and I don't know, my mind's kind of weird. I always think back to, and we just saw this documentary. Well, it's actually not even really a documentary. They dramatized it. The Society of the Snow. The story about the 1972 Uruguayan rugby team that was traveling, right? It's my all-time favorite story. I use it in school. I teach it in my sociology class, but I always think about it. And if you don't know the story, this team that crashes in the Andes Mountains, there's 42 people on this plane, this small plane that they charter, and everybody, search parties, they think they're dead. And I'm ruining some of the story for you. I'm sorry, all right? But you can watch this version, the new one that just came out. You saw the society, it's incredible, right? And they get into some pretty heavy details. They're there for 72 days. 72 days in the Andes Mountains, like sub-zero temperatures. You know, they have to eat the dead, right, basically to live. I know, it's a brutal tale, but these 2 guys climb out of the mountains. They have no mountain climbing gear. They only have human flesh on their back. What's that? Yeah, they had never seen snow before. And they make it out, this incredible survival story. And I think about it, though, like just them getting out and these people that are together and what they had to do to survive. So I think about like the spiritual parallel for us as a small community of believers and how hard it is to make it to the end and get to the other side. It's not easy. It wasn't easy for you to get to church here this morning, but look at the person on your row to your right and to your left. We are on the same team. We're worshiping the same God. We're here to worship the resurrected and risen Christ. And there is an enemy that wants to keep you home and comfortable in your homes. Get comfortable being uncomfortable because it's not going to get easier. It's only getting harder out there. That's why we need each other more than ever. We are the society of the snow. That's who we are as a church. That's what the ecclesia is. We're the called out ones. We come here, we gather together, and we push each other on, and we inspire each other to say, yeah, you too, you had a rough week, I had a rough week too. But guess what? We're going to put one foot in front of the other, and we're going to go out ahead into another week. Let's go, church. That's what I'm excited about as I get out of my car this morning, and I'm like, I want to take a walk in the woods today, right? Normally you can't with ticks and everything, but I'm taking a walk in the woods today. Right? I'm taking the road less traveled. Yeah. Snowshoes. I don't need snowshoes. I'm going out like just, T-shirt and whatever. Wim Hof style. Some of the Wim Hof breathing. Yeah. What was that? You're pointing at Dad? Dad, that's Dad. Dad loves nature. Well, are you ready? You ready for us to get into Revelation? Back into it? Does anybody know? You remember what chapter I said last? Like what who we're going to be talking about today? Antichrist. Some of you come just for that. I guarantee you, I'll tell you, this is not going to be what you think it is. This sermon, all right? That I think that you're probably sitting here going, "Oh, I can't wait to hear about." I'm guessing. I don't know for sure, but that's what I think. But before I get there, we spent 6 months getting to this point in chapter. We're in chapter 13. That's where we're mainly going to be. But I need to just review a little bit and get us set for when we jump into the chapter. So the first thing we have to do is, in just talking about this book of Revelation that we're in, the last book of the Bible, many churches, we've said this before, the Bible, about a third of the Bible is prophecy. And a lot of that is just not discussed. I'm sorry to say, but in many churches and pastors that you love, that you see on TV, that you listen on, radio, whatever, on satellite radio, they don't talk about any of this. They act as if it's just normal. That the world that we're living in right now, and everything's kind of back to normal in the system and everything that we do in church, and it's really not. But the book of Revelation, at the end of the day, where it says the revelation of Jesus Christ, that word in Greek, right, is where we get, it's called apocalypsis, and it's where we get our word apocalypse. This whole book, the Revelation, is a revealing. It is a revealing of Jesus Christ. So you can't understand anything in the book of Revelation until you understand this first verse right here. John is telling us this is a revealing of who Jesus Christ is. And unfortunately, in the culture we live in, this is what we think of when we hear the word apocalypse. Oh my gosh, the natural disasters and the storm there, it was of apocalyptic proportion, right? That's what we think about. So the word has gotten hijacked because of the culture we live in. But that's not the meaning of it. The meaning of it is that as we read the pages of Revelation, as we read what John, this beatific vision that he gets, as he's brought up into heaven and he sees things, and he's trying to tell us, he's telling the first century and every century, all Christians, he's trying to lay this out. It's a revealing of who Jesus Christ ultimately is. At the end of the day, that's what this book is all about. And can I say this? I've said this before, but it bears repeating. When you look at all of the sermons from the church fathers in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries, when you put them all together, there is only one book in the Bible, you know where I'm going, only one book of the Bible that quotes, when you look at them, that all of them have in common, it's the book of Revelation. It's the most quoted book from the church fathers. It's not Romans. You would think maybe it's Paul's letter to the... No, it's not Romans. It's not Philippians. It's not Ephesians. It is, in fact, the book of Revelation. This revealing of who Jesus Christ is. And where we left off, there are 404 verses in the book of Revelation. When you look at, there are over 800 allusions or direct quotes to the Old Testament. And the problem for us is we read the book of Revelation. For the people that were, like John wrote this in AD 96, when the people read the book of Revelation, they knew the Old Testament. So a lot of the things that they saw, like, that's Daniel 7, that's Daniel 9 here, that's Isaiah. That's like, they would be able to point out, and they knew, right, where things were from. So when you're reading really the book of Revelation, you're really not reading a lot that's new. You're reading what's already been written, and it's tying everything together, the thread that moves throughout the entire Bible. Does that make sense? Okay, now, the chart. So where are we in the book of Revelation, and where are we in the world today? I've used this, the entire series. We are talking chapters Revelation 6 through 18 are what we call the Great Tribulation, where there is a period of time, and there are different views on this. Are you the rapture? Are you pre-trib? Are you post-trib? I've mentioned a lot of these terms. So not everybody's on the same page, but these chapters right here, this is what we're looking at. This will be the worst time to be in existence on this planet, the Great Tribulation, this 7-year window of time. So we are right here as we move into chapter 13. We are in the middle of this great tribulation and this Antichrist character and these beasts that are coming up and they're rising out of the sea and the false prophet. And who's this? Who's the dragon? All these, these characters that come about. That's what we're looking at as we get into this. And now we can actually jump into the text. You ready? I'm going to read you the first 10. Now I broke this up. I don't usually do this, and I'm trying to do this a little bit more. I'm breaking up chapter 13 into 2 sermons. I think next week is going to be better than this week. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, I'm breaking this up into 2 weeks. So you have to hear the second part. I'm not getting into 666. I'm not getting into any of that today yet. The false prophet, all of that, we'll talk about that next week. And I guarantee you, what you probably think it is, in my opinion, it may differ than what you think, what we think as a church. And that's okay, because nobody has this all figured out. And if anybody thinks they have Revelation all figured out, right, they're deluded. Nobody does, right? There are a lot of different opinions on this. So we're just going to be hitting the first 10 verses. We're going to read them right now. Ready? All right, let's go, church. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and the mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshiped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshiped the beast and asked, who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it? The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. There it is again, right? The Great Tribulation. It's going to be this 7-year window. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Did you get all that? You understand all that? Like it's easy? Do I even need to say anything? I mean, it was so crystal clear as to the meaning of that, right? For us as 21st century Christians and how we're supposed to apply that to our lives. Can't you see why so many people have had different opinions over the centuries about what this means? I need to say this, though. You have to understand, we as a church, we don't literally, if you've never read this before, so how hard it is as a preacher when you look at stuff like this, because you have people in the room that have studied this like Chris Focal for your entire life. Right, as long as you've been a Christian and you know the Bible incredibly well. And then I have people that are like, do you really believe in real dragons? Is that what this is? Like, I've never heard this before. Are we talking about real dragons and beasts? Because that's kind of weird to me. So we have all of that in the room and some in between. John is writing and he's giving us signs and symbols. We don't believe that there is a literal beast, there's these dragon. We don't believe in any of that. We believe something far worse, that there is a nefarious, evil character, and his name is Lucifer. He was a fallen angel, and we believe that he is diabolical, and since he fell, and since he couldn't overtake God, and he wants to be God, he wants to sit in the place of God, he has done everything that he can to go after us, humanity, because we were created in God's image, and he hates God, so he hates us. Okay? And John here is using symbolism, signs. We live in a culture that is all about propositional truth. Lay everything out. It's A, B, C, D. You also have to understand the whole Bible is a book that was written by Easterners to Easterners. So you have to see pictures and images and symbols are used not just in the book of Revelation. I know for us, it's like, hey, give me the 7 steps. Here are the 7 steps for your best life now. Right? Like, no. It's Easterners, pictures, symbols, images. Even, can I just say this too? This always blows my mind. You know, Jesus is always at, like, when he got a question from, like, the Pharisees or the teachers of the law, what did he come back with? An answer, right? Didn't he always give an answer? No. A lot of times he gave questions. That's how they sparred with each other. He would actually be quoting, it was called a remez. He would actually be quoting something from the Old Testament. So his question was, I'm answering your question, but I'm using something else from the Old Testament. They didn't talk in dialogue kind of the way that we do. So you have to see that as you're looking at this, and imagery. This is what one scholar said, and I love it. It's how he put it. His name is Darrell Johnson. Great scholar, I think a great theologian in looking at Revelation. Somebody I've liked in studying this for months. Imagery has the power to go deeper than mere words, doesn't it? Right? Come on, it does. Just ask the TV advertising specialist. The Super Bowl is coming up in a few weeks. What do we care? I don't even care about the game. I don't care who wins because the Jets are never going to be in the Super Bowl. So, right, it's never going to happen. So all I care about is what Super Bowl commercials are going to be on. And how evocative they are, and the images that they use. And the next day, people are talking about at the office, did you see the commercial that they had, that car commercial? Did you see the new Coke commercial? Did you see the new Doritos commercial? Right, all of that. They get it. Anyway, imagery has the power to hook us deep inside. Yes, it does. Images can quickly and effectively convey that which we struggle to put into words. Imagery goes beyond the intellect and through the emotions and into the imagination, grabbing hold of us at the deepest recesses of our being. Imagery slowly but surely works on the intellect and emotions, changing the way that we see and hear and feel reality. And more than mere propositional truth, imagery sustains the new vision of reality. It's a lot there, but I had to put this up and remind us that's what John is doing. That's what this whole book is doing. This is giving us a picture of ultimate reality, but in a different way. And we have said in the series, Revelation is not linear. This is not like, so chapter 6, 7, 8, this is not linear. John is not telling us what happens next. He's telling us what he sees next. And the first window that we looked at in Revelation was this window of the throne room. We're talking, they're singing this morning about the throne, of what's happening around the throne of God right now, that there is worship that is taking place. And we are just drawn up into that. And we talked about a Game of Thrones. That was the first window that we looked at, ultimate reality. And then window number 2 we looked at was the trumpets. Right? The trumpets that were blasting and all of the stuff that was going on with that was number 2, and that there would be great repentance on the earth, and hoping that people, God being so merciful and graceful, and hoping that people would come back. That was number 2. And now here we are in window number 3 as we get to chapter 13. And in this window, in chapter number 13, it's an interlude. Before we have bold judgments, it is an interlude, and we're seeing this, and we're getting a picture of who the enemy is. That's where we are. You good now? A lot of work to bring you up to speed. I can't just jump into chapter 13 without giving you the context again. It's impossible. So now we can actually get into some of the meat. So what do we see here in chapter 13? What we see here is the unholy trinity. The unholy trinity. Because at the end of the day, the dragon is to be Satan, right? So he is like God the Father. And then you have the first beast that is coming up out of the sea, the Antichrist. That is God the Son. And then you have the false prophet, who is the second beast. So the dragon, beast number 1, and then beast number 2. And beast number 2 that is coming up out of the sea is like God the Holy Spirit. Amazing, right? Why do I say that? Because the enemy is a counterfeiter. And all the enemy does, he plays what I like to call the imitation game. All he can do, J.R. Tolkien said it, and I never forgot it, the enemy cannot create anything in and of itself. All he can do is mimic, distort, and change what God has already created. All he can do with something like sexuality is, God created it to be something that is beautiful between a man and a woman. All he can do is take it and distort it in such a way, using pornography, using whatever, and he distorts what God has created to be something that was really good, but in a lot of ways it's not in the culture in which we live. So he's an imitator. I love this. Oscar Wilde said this. You probably know the first part of the quote, but you didn't know the second part of the quote. And Wilde said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? You've all heard that, but have you ever heard the second part, right? That mediocrity can pay to greatness. And I love that there is an enemy that exists, and what he does is, he is mimicking the mediocrity he is paying attention to, and he's paying homage, really, at the end of the day to God and his greatness for who he is, because he wants to be so much like God. True. And he plays the imitation game. And let me tell you, though, he plays the imitation game. I think he plays it pretty well. Now, let's delve into some of the details of this. So we see here in Revelation 13:3, and it says, talking about this Antichrist character, right, which we believe is going to be the most sinister. Remember those commercials, like Dos Equis? Like the most interesting man on the, what was it? Most interesting man in the world. He can ski and he could do all these things, right? I used to love those commercials, right? This guy, the Antichrist, a man that we believe will be coming on the scene. I personally believe he's on the planet right now. That's just my opinion. With everything that's going on in the world today, I don't know how you can look at it and say that he's not. Let me say this, and I'm going kind of out of order, but I thought it was really good. Time Magazine, I like to pull stuff from culture. Time Magazine did a poll, this was like 3 years ago. 42% of Americans believe there'll be an Antichrist sometime in the future. Not Christians, Americans, 42%. And then Newsweek did a poll, and 24% of Americans said they believe the Antichrist is on earth right now. But that was pretty wild, right? Not Christians again. I don't know what percentage in that number were actually Christians, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So you see here, back to he will embody evil. He'll be the most evil person, most sinister, nefarious, malevolent, diabolical person that will ever exist on this planet. Every person that has come before him, well, the Hitlers of the world, they are just a picture of what he is actually going to look like. A taste of what we are actually ultimately going to see. So we see here, in verse 3, it says, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound. But the fatal wound had been healed. Remember, he's an imitator. So this is a picture of what will this ultimately look like? First, we don't believe, Pastor Linda, Pastor Joe, myself, we don't believe that the church is going to be here for this, to see this, right? To be alive, we believe the church will not be here. In chapters 6 through 18, there's no mention of the church. But this character, when he comes on the scene, he is going to mimic and try to imitate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Do you see this? He's an imitator. That's what he does. And what will this look like? I don't know what this is going to, maybe it's something like, you go back, I'm not old enough. I teach it, right? But like President Kennedy's assassination, right? Like something like that but we live in a time where the whole world could see this. By the way, can I give you a little history? You ready for this? You know the guy that we call it the Zapruder film? You know the Zapruder film, y'all. You with me? Hello, Zapruder film? Yeah, I'm looking at some of your faces. Do you know that guy that was a barber in Dallas, Texas, who happens to be just filming? President Kennedy's coming. Oh my gosh, this is great. And he happens to be filming that the president was there that day. That the government that was his property. The government had to pay him millions of dollars. This is a couple of decades ago. That he was literally, like, I laugh, like he's literally sitting there filming, having no idea. He's setting up his family probably for generations. That he made millions of dollars from that Zapruder film. I'm not here to talk about Lee Harvey Oswald. Don't ask me any of that. Is he the lone gunman, conspiracy theorist? No, I'm not getting into any of that. But I'm imagining, right? Something like that. I'm imagining that's probably what it's going to be like. But we live in a world today where everything can be seen live. Facebook Live, YouTube Live. With our phones, you can see anything, any event that is happening in the world, everybody will have it. Now let me blow your mind. Ready for this? Today, there are over 5.3 billion people online. Of the 8 billion people on the planet, whatever, how close that number is, somewhere in that vicinity. This is what I thought was mind-blowing. By the end of next year, 2025, it is estimated the whole world will have access to the internet, mostly using mobile devices. Y'all, it's January 2024. They're estimating by the end of next year the whole world, civilized world, bless you, will have access to things that are happening. Everybody will see it in real time. This 25, 30 years ago, to read Revelation 13:3, you would have been like, what? How could this ever possibly happen? Now it's like, it's not far-fetched anymore. I also believe, I don't want to get crazy on this, the World Economic Forum just met in Davos, Switzerland. I don't know how many of you follow that. It's an evil organization, right? Incredibly, the world leaders and people, anybody I know that goes to the World Economic Forum, I'm like, oh, you're done. I cross you off my list. You're done. You go there every year. Not good. Right? And I'm not here to, that's not a conspiracy. A lot of people in the world. But Sam Altman, you guys know Altman, the creator of ChatGPT and, OpenAI and everything. He's another character that's incredibly evil. I think they're going to use AI and somehow make it look like there's a real resurrection. Not going to be. That's just my take on this. And I don't want to take you down a technological rabbit hole and describe some things that you I think that's how it's probably going to play out. Something. Because remember, he's an imitator. He wants to make it look like this really happened. It won't be hard. Right? Does that make sense to you? Okay. I think I got some of you now. Now you're paying attention. You're like, this is actually interesting. The other stuff was not interesting. Now, the beast that we see here, beast number 1 that comes up out of the sea, and I didn't want to, I wrestled with this, but if you want to do your own study, you can look, beast number 1 looks identical to the beast that we see in Daniel 7. Right, so you have to look Old Testament-wise in looking, if you're looking at the book of Daniel, a book that portends a lot of things for end-time prophecy and things that are happening on the world stage, even things right now. And in there, in 7, representing the nations that have ruled over the known world, whether it's, Babylon, the Persians, the Medes, the Greeks, and so on. So you can read that. I'm not putting that in here, but I wanted to put this up. This term, the Antichrist, the term the Antichrist is only used a couple of times in the Bible. I think a lot of people don't know that either. But there are different names that are used. So Jesus talks about him, right? The Olivet Discourse, right? In Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. Paul talks about him, 2 Thessalonians, writing to the Thessalonians. John describes him, 1 John 2. And obviously, we're not surprised to see John because John is the one, right, that is writing the book of Revelation. Revelation denotes chapters 6 through 20. I said that before, showing you the chart to describe his impact on humanity and his fate. And Daniel describes him in 7, 8, 9, and 11. One more chart, and I don't know, for those people that really study, if you want this, you could see this after. Here are some of the names, and I just put counterfeit Christ. Because that's, at the end of the day, this is all about, it's counterfeit. And I'm going to get to, it's counterfeit Christianity. Wait till what the spirit of the Antichrist, there are things I'm going to leave you with today that I think are so important for what we're seeing in the world and the lens through which you have to look at this term Antichrist, this person that is eventually going to rise on the scene, and what it means for us right now. These are just some of the names. The rider on the white horse, the beast. Again, he's always trying to mimic, right? The beast rising up out of the sea, the little horn. The prince who is to come, the one who makes desolate, the man of sin, the son of perdition, the lawless one. These are all terms that are used, that we see everywhere, that are given to him, the Antichrist. This is my opinion, but this is kind of how I look at it, and I was writing, and I'm trying to imagine, give you a picture, an amalgamation. I think he's going to be an amalgamation. He's going to be as mesmerizing, I think, as Hitler. As charismatic, I could have picked a lot of presidents. I think you could have picked a Clinton. I think President Obama was incredibly charismatic, right? Still around. As fearless as an Alexander the Great, as beloved by his people as a George Washington, as unstoppable as Genghis Khan, and I would say, and as spiritually charismatic as King David. Put all of these characters together, put them in a blender, blend it up. You ready for a smoothie, y'all? Got a smoothie coming your way, and boom, here it is. That's the Antichrist. That's what I see personally when this figure comes on the world scene. Could you imagine having all of these talents, this acumen? That's going to be pretty. The devil is not going to have this character that he's going to give all of his power to show up on the scene. He's not going to have 666 written across his forehead and have a cape and have red horns. No, that's not how he works. He's going to be much more stealthily moving. And he's going to be tricking people. Even the elect in the last days would be deceived. He is the king of deception. He disguises himself as an angel of light. He's not coming with darkness. He's coming with light. And as people embrace the light, which is not the real light, that's how they get deceived. That's how this figure is going to come on the world scene. This is what he's going to look like. Am I crazy on that? I don't know. Make sense to an extent? That's how I kind of see it. I know I'm teaching a little bit more than usual, but I think it's important to go through this because I know a lot of you, this is the end of the day when you heard Revelation. Oh my God, he's doing a series on Revelation. This is the stuff that you were probably excited about. Am I wrong? No? Except those movies. I still need healing from the movies I watched as a child. The Guillotine, I just watched, Napoleon. Right? And when it starts out in the beginning, and Marie Antoinette, and they go, and the guillotine, and I immediately, when I saw the guillotine, I went back to my childhood. And I'm still suffering from watching those movies, and people were like, it was during the tribulation, and they were getting their heads chopped off, right? And I was like, I'm young, I'm like 7, 8 years, why was I allowed to watch this? What? Pastor said you got saved. Yeah, fear, right? Like it was like, you better get saved. And I remember there was a time that people were over the house and my parents would have meetings, and I remember it was like a leadership meeting, and I was like a young kid, and I never told, and like at the end of it, everybody was like kind of, yeah, I'm telling you now in front of everybody. But there was like a meeting, and at the end, they were talking about, and I went to bed like, is it going to happen? Right? Like, did any of you, like, and not bad, but it was just like funny, and I think about it more as a kid, but some of the movies, not your fault, the movies they created, what were they thinking? Crazy stuff in how they depicted and portrayed all of this. Now, here's the point, ready? Here's the point of this sermon I really need you to pay attention for. This is going to be weird. All right, this is the image that I have. This is what I need you to see in this is the end game. The end game of the imitation game. All right, this is from this past year. It says, stolen baby Jesus returned to Doylestown Church after December 22nd theft. I was doing research this week, and I came across this on accident. How many of you know this? There's a real thing. It's called stolen baby Jesus syndrome. Anybody ever hear of this? There's actually, no, none of you did. There's actually a Wikipedia page named Baby Jesus Theft that every year during Advent, it's very common for manger scenes for Jesus to get stolen out of those manger scenes. Okay? Yeah, some of you are like in disbelief right now. Like, why would somebody do this? Get this. This is crazy. This is in Wellington, Florida, a very well-to-do, affluent area, right? Where somebody stole the baby Jesus statue. It was worth $1,800. It was stolen 2 times in a row. Finally, they put a GPS unit in the third baby Jesus, and when it was stolen, they went to the house of this thief. It was an 18-year-old girl. What are you doing? They go inside, give us baby Jesus back. And we got to press charges against you. You're stealing Jesus out of nativity. So what's wrong with people? Crazy. But here was the part that really got me. Why am I telling you this story? Here's the part that got me. Many times when people will steal Jesus out of the manger scenes, they'll replace the Jesus with something else. They take the Jesus out and they put in like a stuffed animal, they put in dolls, they put in things, and they think it's kind of funny. I'm saying this because at the end of the day, you hear the word Antichrist, you may think it's against. The real definition of the Antichrist is in place of. His job, his goal is to replace Christ. He wants to sit on the throne in the place of Christ in heaven and in our hearts. That is what is happening. I'm just summing up. That's the crux of who the Antichrist is. He wants to be Christ. He wants to be Christ to us. He wants to be in that seat. That makes sense to us? That's what this is. He is going to be the most vile person to ever live on this planet. And you know how he's doing it? Can I give you now how insidious he is? Can I give you what's happening in the world today? Where are we seeing this? Because the world talks about, I don't care who he is. And we've heard all this for years, right? It was Reagan, it was Kissinger, and you keep going down. It's Trump, right? You heard people say, oh, it's Trump. It was Obama. It was everybody. Biden. I don't, but whatever, you hear people, so I didn't mean that, sorry. If you, I don't, like, he's our president, we pray for him, like, we love him, right? But he may not know we're praying for him. But at the end of the day, listen, look, at the end of the day, I don't care who the Antichrist is. I don't care, and you shouldn't care either, right? What we should understand is the spirit of the Antichrist has been working for a long time. This is what Watchman Nee said, and I pulled this. I'm texting Pastor Linda. I'm like, what was the Watchman Nee book? And she said, Love Not the World. And I'd read it before, and I forgot about it. And then I didn't put it up here, but just listen to this. Satan is utilizing the material world, the men of the world, the things that are in the world to head up everything eventually in the kingdom of Antichrist. And here's the best part. He wrote this, 50, 60 years ago, right? 50, 60 years ago. He said, at that hour, the world system will have reached its zenith. I think we're almost there, okay? And at that hour, every unit of it will be revealed to be anti-Christian. We are living in a culture that is moving slowly like the frog in the pot, and the water is being heated up, and it's almost imperceptible, and we can't really tell. Do you realize how he's doing this? He is taking kernels of truth, the spirit of the Antichrist. Stop looking for a person, right? Understand it is here now. It has been here for centuries. It is just building up. He is using things like progressive Christianity. He takes things that sound really good. They're anti-Christ. Please understand. He is using things like, and even, I'll give you an example. Ready? Universalism. Pastor Linda and I would love to get up here as preachers and tell you we can say and believe that everybody's going to heaven. In my heart, we want to. It's hard. You hear people, oh my gosh, but what about these people over here? I don't know. All I know is that the Bible is my compass. The Bible is my true north. And at the end of the day, not everybody is going to heaven. As much as I want that to be the case. You want everyone to come to faith and everyone to believe. But you hear people like Richard Rohr and Rob Bell and Rachel Held Evans and Brian McLaren. You may not even know all these names, but these are people that are huge names out there. And they're telling everybody, no, it's the all-inclusive Christ. And people buy that. It's counterfeit Christianity. He has changed things with sexuality. There are more people that do not have a traditional Christian worldview, an Orthodox Christian worldview. It's the spirit of the Antichrist that is rampant. We have to be awake to this, church. This is where I get passionate because I'm worried that many people are falling prey to counterfeit Christianity. I'm reading a book right now. I'm going to share a lot of, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss next week. I'm going to share stuff about de-churching the population, how we're becoming so de-churched. All stats and data since COVID. All of this data with how the enemy works and people are like, I don't need church anymore. It's the spirit of the Antichrist. And it's here, church. It's in the church. Stop looking outside it's inside the church. Anything that tries to, how about this? Ready? This will blow you away. Pastor Linda, she texted it to me. I'm like, yep, you're 100% right. Can I tell you what religion is? Religion is the Antichrist. Religion is the Antichrist because it sits in the place of the life of Christ that lives on the inside of us. We are living Christianity. I am so done with works-based Christianity. I get it what the Bible says. Without works, faith is dead. I get that. I understand that. But we are living in a day and an age where the spirit of the Antichrist is telling us it's about our works and what we do and that we can be good enough to get to God. You're never going to be good enough. It's about another life that lives on the inside of you. Christ in us, the hope of glory. That is it. Stop looking for a person. Stop talking about who you think it is. It's not about looking for the Antichrist. It's about looking for Jesus Christ, and he lives in the inside of us. That's the truth of the gospel. And many of us are being robbed. Religion is anti-Christ. It's instead of. That you don't need to live from another life, church. Why do you think we keep talking about it? We're not going to stop because that's the truth, and that's what the enemy wants to take. That's why so many people are going to fall prey. Because they're going to say religion doesn't work. And the spirit that is in the church, and it's everywhere, and these mega churches, and everywhere you go, I am so done with these mega churches. And not just because we're pastors of a small church. The average church in America is like this. But I see these churches, and none of this is ever talked about. Makes me sick. It does. I'm sorry. It does. And you may disagree. I don't know. They're great people, and I don't know. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying what you hear and what comes out of it. I think it's dangerous. The spirit of the Antichrist is it's in the church, and it's bad. And that's why we as Christians here at City on a Hill need to be awake and need to see this. And again, I think the shadow has already fallen. The shadow has already fallen. It's the taste, it's the substance, but it's not the real thing at the end of the day. I think that's what we're seeing here. And it's this inner battle, I would say, that we're all dealing with. Anything that is opposing Christ in us, anything that is opposing Christ in us is the spirit of the Antichrist. He's coming at us. He's good at it. He knows how to do it. He knows how to mask things. He's not coming with the six. And I'll give you a little appetizer. You want some chips and salsa before next week? No? You want some? Whatever your choice is. You want some chicken wings? Right? You want some? 666 is the number for man, right? 777 is the number of completion, perfection. 666 is Satan, who is man, who is incomplete without God. We see the world that we live in today with ChatGPT and all this AI and all this stuff. It's man trying to be God. And if I told you some stuff, I mentioned Sam Altman before, some of the crazy comments that guy has made. Do you know that he signed up for a company? I forget the name of the company. Is it Hemstone? I believe he's on a list for people that they're going to take. He wants to have his brain taken and put in the cloud, and that one day that he could be revived, his brain could be revived and be used again. They're trying to chase immortality, right? At the end of the day, that's what man is trying to do. It's man incomplete, 666, right? And everybody's looking for the chip. Is the vaccine the sign? Is it the mark of the beast? And I'm like, stop looking at vaccines. Stop looking over here. Stop looking over there. There's a lot more to it. Just come back next week. We'll talk to it. It's about hearts. It's about an attitude. It's about a spirit that is prevalent in the world. And I listen to a lot of sermons. You don't like, this is just my opinion. This is my take on Revelation chapter 13. There are a lot of sermons that you can listen to, and they focus, I think, way too much on the person of who the Antichrist is, instead of focusing on the spirit of the Antichrist that is alive and well, and it's in the church, and that's why we're preaching Christ in us, the hope of glory, because religion looks really good on the outside, right? But all that glitters is not gold. When you pull it back, right, and you take a look underneath, you see what's really going on. Church? Oh, say it. Go ahead. You know what I've enjoyed today? You know what I've enjoyed today? I got up and I'm like, I feel like the atmosphere is like, it's easy. Come here. It's all right. It's 11:15. We got time. What do you got? This is the church. This is the church.
To everything. It's just astounded me. Well, it's the book that Pastor Linda's been teaching on, and Norman Grubb is a great, a wonderful Christian scholar and pastor that died not that long ago. Anyway, when you talked about before, he says specifically, we replace activity for receptivity. We're not connected, so we get active. So we feel like we're connected, being active. And it's just the opposite. So I would just encourage people to read. It's 50 pages. It's big print. It's captured me, that book, The Key to Everything. You were the one that was the first one to do it. Sorry, I didn't.
What do you think about that? What's the name of the book? Can you post that on, why don't you post that on Realm? We'll post it around everywhere. And I haven't even read it. Key to Everything. I never end like this, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop after that. I could go on. I have some more. I'm going to stop. Does anybody have any questions or comments on anything that we just talked about today? It's 11:15. I'm going to do this until 11:30. I'm going to open this up like a classroom setting. Let's make it a dialogue instead of you just heard a monologue. Does anybody have any thoughts? I'm not asking you to talk about the sermon. Don't rate the sermon. I don't care what you think. Like just in general, though, about the content of what we're talking about with the spirit of the Antichrist. Counterfeit Christianity. Do you see this? Is this something? Let me know as you walk out as a teacher. Right? I've been teaching for a long time in a church. I've been teaching a long time in a high school. I'm checking for learning right now. I'm checking for understanding. I'm checking to see where you're at. I'm checking to see if you have a pulse. Barbara, can we have another mic and maybe so I can hold one too? How's this? Oh wait, that's not a. How's this one?
So this is weird. It's just a weird little thing that made me think about like the quality of products. You know, you think about like you don't know what you're getting anymore in the world. You know, you think you're ordering one thing like clothes or shoes or bags. I mean, I know it's a little weird thing, but it's that same spirit. Like there's nothing that you can count on. You know, everything's kind of just, is it really the real deal? I don't know, but that permeating thing, is what they're saying really true? Everybody lies so much, like in politics, and is it really, am I getting the right shoes here? Are they really leather? Like, I don't know. They can stick a label on anything. I don't know. It just made me think
That's really
of that.
good. I remember, babe, I remember when years ago, and Rob and Suzanne aren't here, but we went to the city one time, and we were in Chinatown. And the girls wanted to go look at and get, you know, those fake bags, like those fake Louis Vuitton. I know some of you laugh and some of you laugh. And you go, and they took you into like some like back. I was like, oh, say goodbye like to our wives. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to see you again. They literally took them into like a closet. I'm like, where are you taking them right now? But they come out and exactly what you're saying in those bags, and an expert can tell the difference. But they look like the real thing. They're supposed to look like it's counterfeit. Right? Do you know that somebody that works in the Treasury doesn't spend time looking at counterfeit bills? Do you know they study the real thing? And once they know the real thing, then they're good and they can tell a counterfeit. That's this. Right? At the end of the day, spend more time looking at the real thing that you can understand and see what's counterfeit. All right. Anybody else? Chris.
Remember you were reading the part where it said those who dwell, he blasphemes the throne of God, and
Right.
those who dwell in heaven.
Right.
Do you have a comment on who are they that they're talking about? Is that something you're going to talk about?
Well, who do you think it is?
Us.
Setting me up. Now you're setting me up. You're setting the teacher up. What's going on right now?
I guess what I'm
I
getting
got
at.
somebody in the room that's like, no.
I wanted
go ahead.
to hear,
Tell,
you know, but-
no, you.
but the
Chris,
thought is-
if you don't know who Chris is, Chris forgot more about the Bible than I'll ever know. I'm serious. That I have no, like, he's super smart guy. If you never heard of him, like, Chris, go ahead.
All I wanted to say is you see it. You talk about the spirit of Antichrist. Hey, look what's happening. The church, instead of like in the days of Billy Graham, was an honored thing.
Yeah.
Now it's a blaspheme thing. It's increasing, and you can even see it in politics. I've never seen before politicians, they go after the other guy. Now they're going after the supporters of the other guys. You know what I'm saying?
Chris, did you see? Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I'm just saying. So you're seeing that blasphemy increase. So when you see then we're all raptured, he's not going to give up. He's going to be saying those people that were raptured, they were taken to hell. Whatever. He's going
Right.
to have a blasphemy against us. So I mean, it's starting to build now. We see the righteous are being blasphemed as bigoted, this and that, and everything else. When the truth of the matter is, we're
It's a
the
good point.
answer, and we're the answer for God. But it's like he hates us.
Yeah.
It's not, as much as he hates Christ.
Yes.
He
Yes.
lives in us. And when we're taken away, it's not over. He's still going to continue to bless.
What was the story? Hey, even if you hate sports, but it resonated with me. The quarterback that played yesterday, and he mentioned Jesus, C.J. Stroud, and they took it out, right? They cut it out. I mean, it's what a picture. They're cutting the real Christ out. Understand though, look, There is another gospel that is being perpetuated in your culture. It's not the real gospel, but it looks like the real gospel in some ways, and they're changing it. I don't want to get into the next week. Next week I get into the Pope. I'm not here to disparage our Catholic brothers and sisters. That is not my job. That's listen to me. No, but and people go, oh, the Pope is the false prophet, and I'm not getting into all that. I can tell you, it's systems. It's what Watchman Nee said. It's the systems, and we need to be understanding and how things are working. It's just the enemy using somebody like that, and I believe his heart's in the right place. The Pope, he thinks this is a righteous cause. We know more, but I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm giving. All right. Anybody else? Got it, sir. Sir, I don't know your name. Tell me your name. We met. Dennis.
I read Newsday, so yeah.
I'm not going to hold that
Anyway,
against
I
you.
know. I want to see what the other side's thinking. So they had in the religion section today, there was...
Is this today they had something?
yes, they did.
Okay, what'd they
And
say?
It was three. One was a rabbi, I guess two other priests, and they were talking about inclusion. They were talking about the LGBT community and all that, that it's acceptable. So I think that's part of what you're talking about,
Yeah, it is.
including them.
That's a grenade. Yeah. No, it is. It's an interesting topic, but that's part of it. And sexuality is, yeah.
And Newsday is promoting it.
Yeah, and listen, I'm a high school public school teacher, so if I told you, I could tell you stories. Just where I am, and other educators in the room could also talk to this fact of how everything, right, Jen, everything is antichrist, right? Wherever you go, it doesn't matter what district you go in, demographics, it's everywhere. Would you say something, ma'am? No? Anybody else? I'm enjoying this. I really. Go ahead, sister.
I love what you said about how people are getting just burnt on religion and done with works, and it's the reason why the message of the hour that we're receiving from the church coming through, it started with Pastor Linda on Wednesdays, that's been spilling over, is so important. It really makes me believe, and a lot of us, it's the last message to be in the hour. We had to run out of ourselves and trying in our own self to get the message that his life is through us. But you can see it even out in the world where people are done. They're done with, they're God-fearing people, but they're done with religion, and they see that it didn't work. And the old me of trying to explain really sort too. So it's like, thank God there's a message, but it really just magnifies how important it is to sit and marinate, and because that message does have to take hold of you for a while. It's something that you need to be working with. But
Yeah, and
it makes it matter.
we underteach. We don't overteach. I never forgot that. Adam Grant, guy wrote a book, and it was a bestseller. And he talked about all the research, talking about how anywhere you go, we underteach, not overteach. So we need to continue using your word, marinate, in this. That's a word. Anybody else as we start to close up? This is really great. This is the church. Do you understand? This is the church. This is the church. Give me it. Where are you going that you can sit here and have a conversation after a sermon? This is what I'd love to do every week.
Well, I'm just going to piggyback, Ted, and what Jen said and what you've been saying, is you see now there's a thirst and a hunger for real. What's real, what's authentic.
Authentic.
And you're seeing bits of it pop out. And people are like, oh, so you saw the interview with, that Cat Williams or whatever. He was talking about Hollywood, and some of that is real. It's like, whoa, look at that. There's some truth there. And you'll hear a politician say something real. It's like, oh, there's some truth there. And you see people shifting and shuffling to wherever they can get a taste of something real. And, that's the marker of where we are, is it's the Spirit of Christ that is real. And for the Christian, we're not going to be darting back and forth, looking all over the place. It is a settling into who he is. It is a marinating into who he is. And that's going to keep us from jostling from this one to that one. It keeps us with a countenance that is uplifted because we know who our God is and we know how the story ends. So, you said marinate, so boom, you started set me off.
Yeah.
My closer is that Gary Brecka, right? He talks about salt.
You guys know the name Gary? Yeah.
Right.
I put more salt in my diet,
Yeah,
but it
he
has to
talks
be
about
Celtic
salt.
salt because the Himalayan salt has
Exactly.
like
but
all
all salt's
heavy
not
metals
salt.
and
Exactly, but all
look at
salt's
some
not
of
the
your
same
faces
thing.
like you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but all
Right.
salt's not the same thing.
Didn't I say that to you the other night?
It's
I
not
just
all
said
the
that
same
to
thing.
you.
It's not all the same. And it's
That's
like, no,
good.
there is a better salt. There is a true way that it's supposed to, a way that it's supposed to hit your body and how it's supposed to taste. And so there's counterfeits, and then there's the real thing.
So we're going to be selling Celtic sea salt next week. If you would like to buy some, all right, it's for a good cause. Celtic, it's the white Celtic. Yeah, the Himalayan sea salt supposedly is high in heavy metals, so that's what I used. It's not Celtic, it's Celtic. Yeah. So wow, yes, Pastor Joe's going to end. You're going to end it. You did the table. Come on, big guy. You're going to end strong or no?
There's no other way.
Go ahead.
Ephesians 6. And that about wraps it up, James. God is strong and he wants you strong. So take everything the master has set out for you, well-made weapons of the best materials, and put them to use so you will be able to stand, all of us, up to the everything the devil throws your way. This is no afternoon athletic contest that will walk away from and forget about the couple of hours. This is the time the devil has put out everything he can to take us down. So remember that. There's imitations. I bought a gift for Nolan the other day. It was advertised, it looked like a box about 12 inches round, all squared up. It came. I said, man, I really want to send you back. And it's like that, And I looked at myself from what you're preaching today, and I said, you know what? I didn't send it back. What does that mean?
You were busy and you don't want to waste your time. Sure? All right, Pastor Lynn's going to add something next week. Did you like unorthodox, untraditional? It's great that you're clapping. If you're here and you really don't like it, I don't care. I love you. I love you. This is the church. No, I'm being serious. This is the church. What we just did. I'd love to do it a little more. Hey, have a great week. Come for the second part next week. All right? And we'll be in the end of, have a what? Oh, Jameson said, have a blessed week. Yes, have a blessed week. We'll see you. Stay warm. Stay warm.